Most people who want to get to 10% body fat have been training for at least a year already. They know what to eat. They know they need to be consistent, yet they're still nowhere near 10% body fat. This video is going to be the honest reason as to why, and exactly how I would look to fix it from whatever your start point may be, whether that's 25%, 20%, 15%, and how you can get yourself down into that 10% body fat mark. I'm going to cover exactly how to set yourself up from the start, how to break through plateaus when they hit, and exactly how you need to start thinking, because it's the mindset shift that no one speaks about. Before we get into it, if you find this type of content useful, make sure you hit the like button and of course subscribe, because I'm posting every single week to help guys out just like yourself. Right, let's get into exactly what it takes, because there's a reason why most people are stuck at the body fat percentages that they are, and it's not because they are lazy or they don't necessarily know what to do. It's because they are missing the most important pieces of the puzzle. There are three things that need to be right simultaneously. Number one, your inputs, your training, your nutrition, your cardio setup, everything like that. Number two, your environment. What's going on internally dictates the success of those inputs. And then number three, your mindset and your thinking. Are we thinking exactly how we need to be to achieve the level of success that we want here? Most people struggle to fix the first one, the training, the nutrition, the cardio setup. Most coaches can fix the inputs. However, if you get all three simultaneously correct, that's where these level of results come from. Let's start with the inputs, the training, the nutrition, the cardio setup that actually signals for your body to change. Number one, a calorie deficit, but not an aggressive one. See, the thing with aggressive calorie deficits is they work, but they fail faster. A 300 to 400 calorie deficit that we can sustain across a 16 to potentially 20 week period, or however long it will take you to get down to 10%, is going to be far more successful than a 700, 800, maybe even 1,000 calorie deficit that fails within 6 weeks. Slow beats aggressive every time, not because slow doesn't feel good, but slow actually finishes. Number two, your protein intake needs to be hit every single day. At least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight needs to be hit on the daily. Protein protects muscle during a cut, and depending on your start point, will also actually help you build muscle. It also keeps you the fullest, and it also has the highest thermic effect of any macronutrient, meaning that you will quite simply burn calories whilst you are eating and digesting it. Most people that I speak to aren't even hitting half their target. They might hit 60 grams per day if they're lucky. Fix this, and it will help sort everything else out. Now, training. Your muscle is the engine for fat loss, not cardio. Every kilogram of muscle that you have and that you carry increases your resting metabolic rate, meaning that you quite simply burn more calories just existing. So when I'm programming training through a fat loss phase, it doesn't mean that it gets easier. Absolutely not. My key focus is on making sure that you retain muscle mass, or that you are building muscle mass throughout the phase, because the more muscle you have, the easier that it is. And with the training side of things, we are focusing on retaining or building muscle mass throughout this phase. So that means that with our training, we need to be training with intensity, close to failure, and warrant this muscle actually staying. We need to apply progressive overload every single week, and of course need to be in a position where we're concentrating on time under tension, and that is what's going to help retain this muscle mass as you diet down. Now we have our expenditure. See, I like to set things up to start with at around 2 times 30 minutes of just zone 2 cardio per week and 10,000 steps. Now the key is that you don't start this too high and generate too much fatigue too early on, because what does that do? Spikes your cortisol levels, and then of course you're in a position where the body gets too fatigued and it doesn't really respond. Now your expenditure is supposed to be used as a tool to help you throughout a calorie deficit. Of course, what you can do over time is increase these to break through plateaus, which of course is what we'll speak about and we'll get onto shortly in a second. So to conclude on the inputs, we need a calorie deficit of around 300 to 400 calories per day. We need protein goal to be hit every single day, at least 1 gram per pound worth of body weight. We need our training to be hard, and we need to be focused on retaining our muscle on, of course, the amount of days per week that you can train and on a split that you enjoy. And then last but not least, we need to think about our cardio and our step setup. I like to start at 2 times 30 minutes per week and 10K steps, as of course I said. Now we have our setup and we focus on the inputs. Let's focus on the environment, a part that catches so many people out and most coaches don't actually end up fixing. Now, I'm not talking about your gym environment. although a good gym environment always helps. I'm talking about your internal environment, your nervous system, your cortisol levels, your HRV, your resting heart rate. Because what most people don't know is that you can mathematically be in a calorie deficit. Yet, if some of these markers are off, oftentimes you won't see that body fat drop. Because when cortisol is chronically elevated, whether that's via work stress, whether that's via poor sleep, whether that's via an increased amount of training load, the body won't respond from a fat loss standpoint in the way that you want it to. The body will quite simply store body fat as a survival mechanism. See, I personally track my HRV and my resting heart rate every single day, and I do that with my clients every day as well. And your HRV, your heart rate variability, this will essentially tell you how ready your nervous system is. If you have a nice high HRV, then typically it will mean that your readiness is good to go and you can push hard. However, if your HRV is low, typically it means that your nervous system is under stress. And that could be a key sign as to why you're not dropping the body fat that you need to be. See, the other month I actually had a client where everything looked good on paper. He was training hard, he was eating to his calorie deficit, he was nailing his cardio. However, fat loss wasn't occurring. We deep dived into his HRV data. We'd seen that it had been suppressed and it had been low for around 2 to 3 weeks. So what did we do? Well, we certainly didn't tell him to train harder. I certainly didn't tell him to eat less food, to do more cardio. No, we had to pull back to push forward. Think about it like a bow and arrow, right? What we had to do is we had to focus on some sleep protocols, we had to focus on some stress management, and we also had to focus on shifting some of this fatigue from his body when it came to training. Some rest days and managing his training volume. What happened off the back of it? The body fat started to drop back off again. The nervous system is a fat loss variable, just like being in a calorie deficit is. However, most people never know how or when to address it. So practically, how can we fix our environment? Well, our number one tool is sleep. Recover like a pro. 7 to 9 hours minimum every single night. See, poor sleep spikes ghrelin, your appetite hormone, and it also suppresses leptin, your satiety hormone. So you can see how that would be a little bit of an issue. So not only are you going to have less willpower, not only is your training quality going to drop off, but you're also going to be a little bit hungrier. Sleep is a body composition tool, so treat it like one. Then we look at stress management. And I don't just mean some journaling, some deep breathing and some meditation. No, we need to have a deep dive into what is actually causing this stress on the body right now. And we need to address that. We need to fix that, because without it, the body won't respond in the way that you want it to. And last but not least, we actually have training load management, because more is not always more. If your HRV is constantly bottoming out and you're not recovering and you're grinding through sessions, that's doing you more harm than good. And again, your body's going to be inflamed, your body's going to be under more stress, and you won't see the response that you want. So sometimes, like I said earlier, you have to pull back like a bow and arrow to allow the body to reset with some rest days, with some deloads, manage your training volume, and then of course the body will propel forwards. Okay, we've gone through the inputs, we've gone through the environment, now let's talk about plateaus, because everyone hits one, but our response to them is what dictates our level of success into dropping body fat. A plateau isn't a failure, it's your body adapting. See, as your body works through a deficit and you get lighter and lighter, your maintenance calories, they drop, they adapt. So that calorie deficit that might have worked a month ago, it no longer works anymore. That doesn't mean that anything's gone wrong, that just means that your body and biology is doing its thing. So here's the decision tree that I run through with myself or with every client before we look to make some changes. So the first thing is, has your body weight stalled for 14 days? If it has, it's probably a genuine plateau. If it's stalled for anywhere between 5 to 7 days, maybe even up to 10, this should just quite simply be some fluctuations, and we just need to keep going. If it is a genuine plateau, before I go and change anything, I'll go back to the environment. Has sleep been disrupted? Is stress elevated? Has training load been far, far greater? Because like we've spoken about, if the environment is off, if the body is under stress, then taking away less food and adding more cardio is only going to add to that equation, and your body's just not going to respond. If the environment is solid, then we have one of 3 options. Option 1, we can look to reduce some calories. Each change anywhere between 100 to 200 calories to get that calorie deficit that little bit larger and to see the scale weight move down again. Option 2, we can increase your activity. We could either increase steps by maybe 2,000 per day, or we can add some additional cardio. Now, this doesn't have to be super high intensity, because again, what that can do is add some more stress onto the body, but we want to use this strategically as a tool. Or option 3, we have some high days, or we have a diet break, where we'd look to increase our food, which will allow the body to recalibrate and essentially drop some fatigue and drop some stress off of the body. And very, very quickly, we see that the body weight will then drop back down again and we can continue to march on. The thing that I see most often when it comes to plateaus and why people break down and often fail is they then try and do too much at once. They make too many changes at once. They slash their calories, they add too much cardio, and then all of a sudden, the environment isn't set up for success. And then the fat loss phase crashes because the stimulus can't land. The training, the nutrition, the cardio, and everything like that, because the body is under stress. So what we need to do is make one adjustment at a time, let it sit, let it kind of weld in, see if it makes those changes, and then of course we can continue to make further changes if we need to from there. But oftentimes, we just need to be patient and we need time. Okay, so now we've covered everything else. We've covered the inputs, the environment, how to manage plateaus. Now this one, for so many people, is the missing link. And it's how you think, and it's your mindset. Here's what I've noticed after years of coaching, and of course, I've seen it within myself, is the people that get themselves down to 10% body fat and then they stay there. They don't rely on motivation. They don't rely on discipline. No. They've adopted an entire new identity. They've changed the thinking in who they are. And that is how you get results that last a lifetime. See, there's a very key difference between someone that's trying to lose body fat and someone where it's just part of who they are. They just adopt what they need to and they crack on. So here's the mindset shift that I want you to make. I want you to stop thinking, what do I need to do to get to 10% body fat? I want you to start thinking, what does that person that lives and breathes at 10% body fat, what do they do every single day? Because let me tell you now for a fact, that person does not negotiate with their training schedule. That person does not let one bad day or one bad week turn into an entire month written off. That person values their sleep and they focus on recovering like a pro. That person has systems in place to make sure that they stay on track wherever they are. They don't treat their food as comfort. They don't treat it as punishment. Their stress is managed. And that's how they stay 10% body fat year round once they've got there. You don't get to 10% body fat and then become that guy. No, you need to become that person first and then the physique follows. And that's the work that no one actually wants to speak about because it's far less tangible than being sat in a calorie deficit or a training program. But it's the one that actually makes these results last. The standard that you hold yourself to physically is a direct reflection of the standards that you hold yourself to in everything else. So raise it and watch everything else in your life follow. So that's the full picture. Get the inputs right, your training, your nutrition, your expenditure. Then you get the environment right. You focus on your sleep, you focus on your stress management, you focus on your nervous system. Then you focus on breaking through plateaus and making sure that you don't dramatically react and that you methodically react and make the smart choices. And then of course, we've got the identity shift. That's what pieces everything together. You get all four of these correct, you'll get yourself to 10% body fat and you'll also be able to make it last a lifetime. If this was useful, make sure you drop the video a like, make sure you subscribe to the channel because I put out this type of content every single week. And if you would like to see me deep dive further into any section of this video, the inputs, the environment, the plateaus, or of course the identity shift and the mindset, then leave a comment below. Apart from that, I'll see you in the next one and I'll see you next week.